Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with dumbfounding definitions, dizzying distinctions, and diabolical doctrines, a series sorting through some of the jargon of philosophy. In this video we're going to be answering the question, what is egoism? Now, there are three different kinds of egoism that we're going to be talking about in this video. Psychological egoism, ethical egoism, and rational egoism. The first one is kind of a more descriptive position about the way that people act, while the second one is kind of a moral position on what you should do, and the third is how you can act to act rationally. They all relate to, though, what you want to do and your own well-being. So let's take a look. Psychological egoism is a position about the way that people behave. According to psychological egoism, everyone acts only in their own interest, only in such a way to actually benefit themselves. Even though people may seem to act altruistically, they're actually only acting for their own self-interest, or perhaps what they perceive as their own self-interest. The psychological egoist would claim that someone that works for the benefit of others, doing volunteer work, working for charity, jumping on a grenade, diving in front of a bullet, these kind of things, is actually doing it for themselves, either to make themselves feel good because they like the recognition they get from doing good, etc., etc. They couldn't live with themselves if they hadn't have jumped in front of that bullet or on that grenade, and so on and so forth. Whatever the case may be, all of their actions are only to serve themselves. According to psychological egoism, in the end, all you're doing is acting in some way to serve yourself. There's no truly altruistic motives. You may end up not serving yourself in some way, but your motives are to serve yourself. Ethical egoism, on the other hand, is an ethical position which claims that it is always right to do what would benefit you the most. It is morally good to do whatever will give the best outcome for you. Not necessarily what you believe will give you the best outcome, but will actually give the best outcome for you. It is morally obligatory that you act in your own self-interest. Okay? Note the important distinction here between the psychological egoism and the idea of acting in such a way that you think it will benefit you, and ethical egoism in such a way of acting such that it will actually benefit you. One might object to this position that it's not actually what we mean by ethics. It seems so kind of greedy and selfish that, in fact, ethics should prevent us from doing what we want and make us work for the good of society in some way. However, an ethical egoist might respond to these criticisms by claiming that their position is not actually saying that it is ethical to do whatever you want, but rather what will benefit you the most in the long term. You could want to do one thing, but actually have something else be a benefit to you in the long term. I might want to smoke, drink, and eat ice cream every day, but that's not going to benefit me in the long term. And one could argue that doing things like helping others and being kind and those kind of other duties that always come out of other ethical theories will in fact benefit you more in the long term than just doing whatever you want. Therefore, what you should do is more than what you want to do. There are some other objections to ethical egoism, but I'll let you offer those yourselves in the comments below. Now, rational egoism is the third type of egoism we're going to be looking at. Rational egoism is similar to ethical egoism in that it attributes something to the person that acts in their own self-interest. While ethical egoism claims that someone that acts in their own self-interest is ethical or good, rational egoism claims that someone that acts in their own self-interest is logical or rational. Now, once again, we'll have to look at the distinction between what one wants and what is best for one's well-being. While rational egoism claims that doing what is best for your well-being is rational, the instrumental theory of rationality claims that acting to maximize the likelihood of the things you want to come true, basically, is rational. To understand this distinction, imagine that you want something that will not maximize your well-being, like to commit suicide. The instrumental theory would claim that this is rational, so long as it's in line with what you want. So it would be rational to take a gun and shoot yourself in the head, because that is going to get you what you want. That's going to be the most logical path, perhaps, to get you what you want, which is to die. While the rational egoist might claim that since it's probably not going to maximize your well-being, it would be irrational. Now, if there were some situation in which killing yourself would maximize your well-being, such as jumping on a grenade because you would feel guilty for the rest of your life and feel horrible because you hadn't done it, and so on and so forth, then the rational egoist might sanction it, because it would actually be useful for your long-term well-being. But if, in fact, committing suicide isn't useful for your long-term well-being, the rational egoist is going to say it doesn't matter what you want, it matters what's good for you. That's what's rational. Whereas the instrumental theory is going to say it matters what you want, not what's good for you. Okay? There are many objections to each of these positions and concerns to be raised. This has just been a very basic introduction to these three different positions. What do you think? Do people always act in their own self-interest? Is it ethical to act in your own self-interest? Is it rational? Offer your thoughts, objections, criticisms, arguments in support of in the comments below. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.